Hello and welcome to the first of our essay writing presentations for Logos. This one is looking at question analysis. And we acknowledge the custodians and owners of the land on which our campuses lie. Here are the topics which you needed to choose from. I'm sure you've already made your choice. Let's have a look at a typical question. Here's the question for topic 1. The question begins with an introduction to the text and then an instruction to read it. And then we get the question itself divided into 2 parts. So for this one, part 1 is to explain what Socrates claimed philosophy was and why he greatly esteemed its value. So actually, for part 1, there are 2 questions. And then you have part 2. And in part 2, you have to take a position either for or against that argument you've just explained. And you're reminded that when you take that position, you need to draw on some other academic sources. For example, some commentary or some books by other philosophers. So you see, that's quite a typical question. And here's another one. We've chosen topic 5 as an example. Again, you have the introduction to the text and the question comes in. The same thing. The first part here is explaining the argument. So you needed to explain what makes a government right in Aristotle's view. And then in the second part, again, you need to take a position arguing for or against Aristotle's view that you've just explained. This time, you're explicitly told you must compare Aristotle's view with at least one other view on the nature or role of governments. In other words, another theory by a different philosopher, for example. And once again, you're reminded to draw on academic sources and the same information, a minimum of 2 other ones, in addition to the Aristotle book that you had to write about. But more would be better. Okay, so having looked at that, let's just review the structure of these questions. Depending on the topic, there'll be a different text, but the basic question is the same. In part 1, you need to explain the argument in the required text, and you're given information about exactly what that argument is. In part 2, you need to take a position for or against the argument in the text. You need to make use of at least 2 other academic sources in addition to the book that you were required to read. And for these 3 topics, the question says you need to refer to another view by a different philosopher on the same topic. So, for example, in that topic we just saw a view on the role or nature of government by a different writer. Of course, you might do that for the other topics as well, but for these 3 topics, it's a requirement stated in the question. So, for specific details, do look at the course outline. And to follow up this, you might want to look at the next of these presentations, which is on researching the topic you've chosen. So, thank you very much.